Hello and welcome to This Is. After years, we finally have it.
Years?
The PSP.
No.
Oh.
No, this is the Xbox handheld. We now have, for the very first time, the ROG Xbox Ally and ROG Xbox Ally X here in our hands. So a few months ago, we were able to get our hands on with them briefly. When I say briefly, I mean it was very brief.
They're like, here's 5 minutes with it. Open this exact app and go this exact route in Gears of War. And once you get to this other spot, stop.
Thankfully, after a few more months of cooking some windows and some full screen experiences, we're now ready to dive headfirst. Now, we're coming in pretty hot here. That I still have my sticker for where I just picked it up from the Activision office. I can just give you that. You can be off stems if you want.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
So to be clear, these are review units, so we're gonna be taking a look at these. This video is sponsored by XSolla. Stay tuned for them in a minute. This is the beginning of our journey. Do you want to help unbox these for me?
Yeah. So a good way to determine whether you have a regular Ally or Ally X, an ROG Xbox Ally X.
There you go. You get that whole brand name.
Terrible name. The base model is white. The X is black.
It's very similar to the way that the existing ROG Ally was white and then the X was black.
Wow, what an unboxing experience.
I told you I had to unbox it already. Here's the thing, you can tell which one that I put back in the box and you tell which one Ken put back in the box. I got a little story for you.
All right.
As we've discussed, there's a little bit of a concern that we had initially as far as how finished the software was gonna be. Because when we first tried this, it felt not finished.
I agree, it didn't feel finished, but like, I didn't think it was wildly off.
No, it was just clearly not done, and I think they were worried about us going off demo.
If we did like anything different than what they were saying, they're like, oh, here, let me swap you out with a different unit.
Yeah. Which, look, I understand, you know, we were looking at something months early. We're shooting this about 2 weeks before it goes live. So we're still missing some of the patches. So stay tuned. By the end of this video, we will be recording a little closer to when we actually have the final stuff. That's why we're not benchmarking everything right now. I was able to spend some time with some of the people behind the ROG Xbox Ally. And there are a couple of concerns I want to put off right off the rip. The setup process is much more PC-like than console-like. When you get this on launch day, you will need to download a number of updates, and then you will need to go into Armory Crate and download additional updates, including BIOS and graphics drivers and stuff.
No!
This is not a console, this is a PC. You're not just gonna like light this thing up and like it's gonna update. You are updating Windows, and if you've ever used Armory Crate, which
Armory
this
Crate
is-
sucks.
So just a forewarning, like just unboxing experience aside, expect a little bit of an update. It's not gonna be as bad as what we had to do for these like review units.
You should know going in that this is a PC handheld. There is some confusion that people think this is just like a Series S in a handheld. It's not.
So let's boot up our ROG Xbox Ally, and I'll give you a little sense for what it's like. So when you start to boot it, you'll see that it does the ROG logo, and it'll do a little Xbox splash screen. Very fancy. So you can see this is just the Windows start screen. So you can see here that I'm in the Xbox app. So if I tap and hold, it will bring up the switcher. So down here, you can see that we're in the Xbox full screen experience. If I want to, I can load the full Windows desktop. That's the key difference with this software. Let me show you Armory Crate real quick. So tap that button and it basically slides over, very similar to what you get on the existing ROG Ally. This is all navigatable with the D-pad. So you can change the different TDPs. So you can do Windows, Silent, Performance, Turbo. One thing I want to mention, I thought was very interesting. So this is the $600 the base model. This has the Z2A chip inside. And what I can tell you with an enormous amount of confidence, that is the Steam Deck chip. So I'm gonna go to the desktop. So it's gonna tell me, hey, this is a bad idea, don't go to it, but I'm gonna do it anyway. So now we're in the desktop. So at this point, this is pretty much exactly like any kind of regular handheld that you would try. You'll see our Z2A quad core with Radeon graphics. I'm gonna confirm this before this video goes live, but I can tell you with almost 100% certainty, this is the same chip from the Steam Deck. But you can see here, we're in the Windows desktop, and if you want, you tap and hold the Xbox button, and then we can come back over here. But what you'll see here is that the Xbox app is running in the Windows sort of full screen. So if I want, I can tap this full screen. I have to restart to enter, or I can stay in without optimization. This new experience is an improvement, and I want to spend some more time with it. But this is Windows with a better Xbox launcher, not an overhaul. This is a Windows PC. It is not an Xbox console. You are not going to play games from your Xbox on this unless they are also on PC. That's just a thing we need to all just sort of put on the table because I think that changes the way you think about it.
I think there's a middle ground that is not being met here. So one of the things they had told us when we first got our hands on is it's just the first time the Xbox dev team has actively wrote code for Windows. This is the ROG Ally 2. There is not going to be an ROG Ally 2. This is it. I've seen some confusion of that online. I'm just like, no, I'll just wait for the non Xbox version. It's not happening. This is that.
You know what is happening? A segue to our sponsor, XSolla. Here on This Is, we have pretty extensively talked about a number of legal issues, including the Epic Games versus Apple situation. On April 30th in 2025, the US District Court ruled that Apple must allow developers to direct users to alternative payment methods in the US. So Apple is currently appealing the decision with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and anything that we talk about here info-wise is not legal advice.
Nevertheless, the decision and similar ones like Epic's victory against Google's appeal in the Ninth Circuit Court in July 2025 are great news for developers. Redirecting users from your app to a browser-based checkout doesn't have to feel hacky. In reality, it's on its way to becoming a widely accepted best practice.
Don't know where to start? XSolla has you covered. They got solutions you and your player base will love. They've recently introduced the buy button for mobile games, which offers secure, seamless purchases of virtual currency and items through a branded browser-based checkout experience backed by XSolla's web shop.
XSolla's web shop is a proven and accessible tool used by top studios and indie startups alike for mobile games to launch D2C sales directly from your game on a convenient web interface.
And the coolest part, the XSolla web shop only takes a 5% transaction fee. That means you get to keep up to 25% the Apple App Store and other major platforms would have taken.
The web shop is easy to set up and fully customizable with low code. It's a breeze to set up and integrate into major platforms, so you can spend all that time making your game better. You'll love that your shop reflects your brand, integrates smoothly in your game, and lets players support you directly.
And it's got built-in live ops marketing tools designed to put offers players want in front of them and increase your sales.
If you're a mobile dev or publisher, don't keep leaving money on the table. Check out the link in the description to get started with the XSolla web shop. And again, thank you to XSolla for sponsoring this video.
So we're going to talk more about software later once we've actually spent a little bit more time with it. What is your thought on the hardware now that we actually have it in our grubby little hands?
It feels great. It really does. These handles feel really good. It looks stupid. When I saw pictures of this, I'm like, what are you talking about?
And I say that there's a magic trick happening here. Here's the thing that I never really liked about the original ROG Ally or the Ally X. They designed this for people without hands. While you can let it kind of rest in your palms, it's not super comfortable. And for me, my fingers are doing a lot of like the grasping. So what they've done here is they've taken what was a moderately thick device. They've actually made these slightly thicker. When you're holding it like this, you don't really see the thickness. You don't really feel it because it's spread out. Because it sort of sits inside your palm like that, I want to spend like, a 3-hour gaming session with this. I feel like this is the most comfortable handheld experience that I've tried yet. Their big downsides though is that it's heavy and this thing is huge. It's not gonna fit in your bag well. Like if you compare it to something like a Legion Go 2 and it was a much smaller screen.
But this gotta be way heavy. The Legion's gotta be way heavier. This feels significantly lighter to me.
I think it's like 100 grams lighter.
The handles are not gonna do any favors for sitting in a bag. I'll say that.
But they had a quote that I thought was actually a good one. They designed this to be best for playing, not for carrying, to fit in your hands better, to be more well balanced. There are a couple of key differences actually between the Ally and the Ally X. First and foremost is the spec. So this is using the Z2A, aka the Steam Deck chip. That is using the Z2 Extreme with an NPU. That also has 24 gigs of RAM versus 16, 1 terabyte versus 512. That is an 80 watt hour battery versus 60, and that has impulse triggers, whereas this just has regular triggers. I'll say that the screen on this is meh. It is the same screen, as far as I can tell, as the Ally and the Ally X. It's 7-inch, it's 120 hertz, it's 16:9. It's perfectly okay, but it is not great, and it does not get very bright. I was setting this thing up in the car driving over here, and I couldn't see anything. But the big difference is, that is $1,000. This is $600. You can buy a Steam Deck that has basically the same chip and the same sort of spec for like $400 on the LCD, or even $550 for the OLED. You can buy both consoles essentially on Best Buy, the Microsoft Store, and ROG Store. Other than that, like a couple places have the X, most places have, like I think Walmart will also sell this. It does seem like the regular Ally is likely going to be more widely available because it's not $1,000 probably.
So, all right, the reason I was excited for this, a lot of my arguments can be thrown out the window based on your personal preferences and stuff like that. I play Steam games and I play World of Warcraft. That's why I've gravitated towards the Legion as opposed to, like, I own a Steam Deck. This here kind of gave you the promise, and while all of these handhelds have some sort of big picture mode that tries to aggregate everything. None of them have been that good. For them to say like, okay, you know what? We're gonna be the ones who play nice with everyone. It doesn't matter what you have on Steam. It doesn't matter what you have on Epic, and it doesn't matter what you have on Battle.net.
Technically, every Windows handheld has these features. The difference is on these devices, you're using a like touchscreen for like, you know, stuff that is meant like a desktop. They've done a lot of work in Windows. You can navigate not all of the Windows interface, but more than I expected with the D-pad.
Yeah, right,
even like Windows settings page
like,
and stuff. Yeah.
There's a reason that this doesn't have a touchpad. There's gonna be some people who are like, man, I love the touchpad on these. I never use the touchpad. Anytime I have to do anything PCE on my Legion, I plug in a mouse. If you're talking one-to-one on a Steam Deck, it's a closer conversation than I thought it was originally. Is the convenience of your library worth that to you?
Yeah. The X is in a different tier. We're going to talk about that a little differently. With the regular version of the ROG Xbox Ally, my question is, $50 is not a crazy different price if this is a better experience. The question is it enough?
This is still a hard pill to swallow. Unfortunately, this is like the one that I would probably gravitate towards.
From this point, we're going to spend the next week or so diving deep and playing with these. I have a lot of questions to answer, but I'm very excited because I hope it's good. I really hope it's good.
I just don't know if it's going to be $1,000 good. Hello and welcome back.
Wait, no. Okay, there was like a 5-second gap for everyone. You don't get to do the intro again. So we have now spent some quality time with both the ROG Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X. I cannot get I have been using the little baby guy. Initial thoughts on the hardware. I think the first impression was pretty much spot on as far as the comfortability. This is what I would compare to something like the Steam Deck OLED or the Legion Go S Steam Edition. All of these are like $550 to $600, and I would argue are somewhat reasonably priced. And then there's stuff like the X, which is, you know, $1,000. I like the way this feels a lot. I think it's very comfortable, even though it's kind of thick and heavy. I will say though that compared to the Steam Deck, I would say it's actually a bit of a wash.
This is something that's very hard to articulate on camera. This feels lighter than I think a lot of other handhelds because I think the way that the weight is distributed, it just feels lighter.
The handles are so good. These handles are clutch.
I'm going to be as bold to say this is by far, by like a mile, the most comfortable of the handhelds.
Compared to Steam Deck.
Compared to these handles look really stupid, feel amazing. And that's kind of where my positiveness starts to run out. I don't think there's anything bad about this. I just don't think there's anything amazing. I will not be pursuing this.
We actually specifically, normally we like kind of like talk a little bit before. We specifically did not have any conversations over the last few days about these because we wanted to save this for camera. I didn't think you're gonna love it. I didn't think you're gonna be that negative.
It's not that I'm negative on this. It's that I'm so positive on last generation handhelds. I just think there's better options out there that can save you a lot of money.
That is, I will say, a very valid take because you're right. You can pick up a last generation Steam Deck for like $300. I'm like 2/3 of the way through benchmark. So you can check out the main channel video, which should be live around the same time, where I will have completed all the battery rundown tests and all the benchmarks. Since it's using the Steam Deck chip, it basically performs like Steam Deck, surprise, surprise.
I feel like I was less negative on the screen than you were. You thought it was not great. I thought it was fine. For me, I'm comparing it to, yes, the Legion is a better screen, but like if I'm comparing it to my Steam Deck, which is not an OLED, it's fine.
7-inch, 1080p, 120 hertz. It does support VRR, although unfortunately VRR only kicks in above 48 hertz. And I'll be honest, most of my gaming, at least with this guy, has been like 30.
What was my use case for this? I wanted something that I could play all my Steam games and I could play World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
The 1-inch difference between a 7-inch screen and an 8-inch screen made all the difference to me. This is kind of where I'm back and forth of like, is this replacing anything I could do? And the answer is no. I thought the screen was perfectly fine playing as far as brightness and colors.
It's the same screen as the original ROG Ally from what, like 2-3 years ago? It's okay, it's $600. I don't think it's okay at $1,000. I would put this in the same kind of category as the Switch 2 screen. Perfectly acceptable, the bare minimum that I would say you would be okay with. It's not a deal breaker. Speaking from the perspective of the one that I've used so far, which is the regular Ally. 120 hertz, I've not seen 120 hertz in any game ever. The games I've been playing would be stuff like Baldur's Gate, which is something that I have been playing on Steam Deck for many years. Playing 720p, FSR, upscaling from like 500p or something internally. I'm getting like 30 to 40 FPS in the sort of more demanding areas. Playing games like Cyberpunk, which run fairly well. Games like Fortnite. These are the main things I've been doing. Although, can I just give you a little sidebar? Can you count the games that are on my Ally right now?
Cyberpunk, Forza, Fortnite.
What's my favorite game?
Baldur's Gate.
Do you see that on there?
No.
Because it doesn't fit. So this is the 512 gig Ally. When I installed Baldur's Gate, which is like 120 gigs, Fortnite, which is like 100 gigs, and Forza, which is like 100 gigs, I went to go install Cyberpunk. I was down to like 30 gigs left. I literally had to uninstall my favorite game to continue benchmarking this thing. You had better be ready for like 3 to maybe 4 AAA games to fit on the 512 gig. That is a major problem.
Which is, you know, what's funny is the other way around for me.
Because that's a 1 terabyte.
This is 1 terabyte.
What's your thought on performance? That is one of the advantages over something like the Legion, which you're very familiar with, that had Z1 Extreme. This is Z2 Extreme. Is there a difference? Can you tell? Like, where are we at?
Game performance, zero noticeable difference to me.
No shit. I mean, I'm assuming there's like a difference, just not like something that you would notice if you didn't have the FPS counter up.
So I've been running on the performance mode of this, which is 17 watts of TDP. There is a 25 watt turbo mode. An hour and a half of WoW was 50% of this battery.
That's actually not bad.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
So like that's where I noticed a difference.
Yeah.
And it was pretty quiet.
Yeah, the cooling solution's not bad.
I want to talk about the software because that's where it really lost me in the sauce. I understand and I want to acknowledge that these are a beta build that's not fully out. I specifically got games, one from Steam, one from Battle.net, one from Xbox Game Pass. When you go to open a Steam game, it has to open Steam. And what happens when you open Steam on Windows most of the time? You get like 3 other pop-up windows. If I go to hit play, I'll try and get this in B-roll too. So it's updating Steam right now.
Yeah.
This is really taking this long to do this. I was noticing this with all the different launchers. We're still launching Steam, and the first thing it launches to.
Yeah, I saw the pop-up. I saw the pop-up of like the Steam sale and stuff.
So now it's glitching. We'll show you that. So great.
Side note: speakers are badass. I'll show you what it actually is supposed to look like. Woo.
Yeah. So. What I noticed before is that you'd still have all those other windows open. I know they're not like crazy, CPU intensive, but it kind of defeats the purpose of having this aggregated big picture mode if you have all the other launchers launching their junk in the background. Once I did all this stuff, I had like 7 windows open. Installing things was kind of annoying for that reason too, because like it's bringing up an install window. This full screen gaming mode feels half-baked. Another thing here is you're supposed to be able to quickly go between games. So now if I go to Ascent,
you have to close the old game. It's Windows. You're still you cannot run 2 games at the same time. It will not. No bueno.
And then you still have like the firewall stuff of like, do you want that? Like this
is
is
Windows. It's Windows.
I know,
It's
but it's clunky.
I think what my esteemed colleague here is trying to say is that this is way more Windows than Xbox, which is true. Let me say some of the positive stuff that I do appreciate here. The full screen experience actually is an improvement. So if I tap and hold the Xbox button, it will pop open my launcher. So on the bottom, I can click the Windows desktop if I want to go over there. Most of the time I don't. So say I want to head over to something like Steam. So I can hit my button and tab over. So let me open up my apps and I'll open up Steam. Once you get into big picture mode, you can kind of pretend that this is just a Steam Deck.
The whole selling point of this is that they're aggregating all your games. The promise is that you're bypassing the launchers because everyone hates launchers.
I will say though that being able to move between something like the Xbox launcher, between Steam, it's actually fairly intuitive.
Yeah, but try that with a game and it falls apart. I don't care how fast you could go between launchers. You can do all of these things on a Steam Deck. It's slightly more cumbersome. This is a really good device. If you buy this, you're probably gonna be really happy with it. But when I have something already with my 2-year-old Legion, I can have all of these things on here. The thing that this does not have, which I think negates most arguments across the board, is a quick resume, quick sleep, whatever. That is the secret sauce of SteamOS.
I would say that's probably my top 2 most annoying things about this is that because it's Windows, when you put it to sleep, games do not like it. I will say though, in the defense of this, because I do think there's some things that I like about it. I think that the performance is pretty solid. I think the battery life is also quite solid on this guy as well. I think a substantial amount of people are buying their first handheld.
I disagree. I think most people who are in the market for a handheld at this point have already bought a handheld.
You don't think? No. I think there's a lot of people who are going to be walking around to Walmart and seeing an Xbox handheld and go, oh, let me give that a try. And are going to be going into this new experience.
Which I think would disappoint a lot of people. Why I was so excited about this and why I'm so disappointed with this is that this full screen mode, it's not doing what I hoped it would. I keep getting hung up on prices for this because it's not that much more powerful than last generation's models.
Having not benchmarked it yet.
Yeah.
The initial benchmarks from some other devices I've seen is like 20-ish%. I don't know how it specifically is on this.
I feel like you'll squeak out a few more FPS, but it's not going to be like a 60 to 120 difference.
Sure, of course.
What I'm telling you guys is that if it was me starting over right now, I would go buy a 2-year-old Legion Go and get that, and I think you're going to be just as happy with that you would be with this.
First of all, okay, are you actually think that this full screen experience is a downgrade?
I don't think it's a downgrade. I don't think it's an upgrade either, though.
I just think that for me, this is a step forward, right? Just software-wise. I think that this is the best version of Windows that they've ever built for a handheld, because it's the only version of Windows that's ever been designed with a handheld in mind. I think that this does not fix all the issues, but I do think it's a lot better. I agree with you that this is not where it should be yet. I think that this is still probably a couple years away. I think we need resume. I think we need quick resume of games. I don't think that should be an option.
That's just such a good feature.
And they need to build in more of the Windowsy bits inside this Xbox UI. I do not want to have to go into Armory Crate and Windows settings. There's way too much stuff.
I want to say one more thing about it that kind of rubs me the wrong way. The home screen, how many ads there are. None of these are games that I have. This is all just as I'm scrolling. Obviously, Steam has their stuff they're trying to sell you, but when you go to the home, it's just your games.
Let's just put software aside for a second. If someone's coming into this video asking, should I buy the Ally or the Ally X? What's your pitch on getting the X?
It really depends on the games you're going to play.
Okay.
So if you want to play AAA titles, we kind of already have said that the Steam Deck is getting a little long in the tooth.
This is the same spec as the Steam Deck.
That's my point. When it comes to a device like this, I kind of think go for the bigger, go for the better. That doesn't necessarily mean go for the most expensive. I just think go for the more powerful one. Again, if you look at the games I play, I definitely could have gotten away with the non-X variant.
My thought is that $1,000 is too much money. I like the hardware. I like the battery life, which is quite solid. To me, if you're okay playing at 720p, which if you're playing on a 7-inch screen, I think you probably are, it's actually pretty acceptable. I would agree with you in the idea that 2-3 years from now, you're gonna probably struggle somewhat. But again, if it runs on Steam Deck, it will run on this and vice versa. In my testing, they're quite similar in many ways, but this will outperform it when you crank up the TDPs. I think the $600 is a little bit of a tough sell, but if it's me, I'm buying the cheaper guy. I am probably gonna budget some money to buy a bigger SSD. If I'm honest with you, if you play a couple of big AAA games, this SSD fills up really fast. If you go into it thinking this is a PC and this is a little bit better than what they've done in the past, and there's a clear trajectory now that they've rebuilt some core pieces of Windows to get rid of the desktop and to work in this full screen experience, I can see this continuing to get better. I'm not sure if I would take this over Steam Deck, but at least this is in the conversation. Think about the difference between the Series S and the Series X, because this is very similar, right? This plays 720p, that plays 1080p. The Series S is 1080p, the X is 4K. That was a $200 difference. This is a $400 difference. Is that worth it on a small portable screen?
But again, like I think the selling point for these devices was this full screen Windows mode, which if it comes to other devices,
it will be helpful.
Is plummets, I think, the value of this over something else. I mean, we've seen what it looks like on an ROG Ally because people have gotten that working.
But it's very hacky. I just think I wouldn't want to recommend people to buy a Legion Go 1 and expect that this full interface will land.
I don't think that this is that much better than a native Windows experience. I think rolling the dice on whether this will come to an older Windows device is worth the trade-off. I'm gonna reiterate this. The most comfortable handheld that I have ever used, hands down. I played a lot with this over the weekend, and it was never uncomfortable. I wish the screen was a little bit bigger. I know that's different from you.
I just wanted it to be OLED. I don't care about the size.
Fair.
I also wish it had a case. The Steam Deck, it's crazy to me that the $300 Steam Deck ships a case.
Yeah.
And the $1,000 Ally doesn't.
Case. To be fair, the ROG shipped with a cardboard stand for it. So I think we all know who. Let us know what you think about these. Are you picking one up? Are you going to take Matt's advice and go get a used Legion Go and be part of the Go Boys? Or are you gonna just go with whatever that is?
You can watch the main channel video where I will more thoroughly break down the benchmarks and the numbers. This is all too vibesy and feely. I want the specific number on how many frames per second my device gets, or I'm out.
Go touch grass. Like, follow, subscribe. We'll catch you in the next one.